Alina's long-held dream has finally come true. Now she lives in her husband's extravagant apartment, where he graciously allows her not to work and does not refuse her anything. So they lived for several years, until one day her husband had to go on a business trip that lasted for several weeks. During his absence, he called Alina late at night, but sometimes she missed his calls, citing fatigue for the day. Upon his return, Griffin felt a marked change in the atmosphere of the house. Alina did not greet him with her usual joy and seemed aloof, which deeply distressed him. He suspected something amiss, but decided not to dwell on it, figuring she was probably in a bad mood. Over the next month, Alina's behavior continued to change slightly. She spent more time with friends, came home later than usual, and Griffin became curious about what she was doing. When asked, she explained that her best friend had also taken time off from work, and they spent time together at salons, the sports center, or just going for walks. One day, Griffin had a business meeting scheduled at a downtown restaurant that didn't go smoothly due to a series of unfortunate events that day. He forgot important paperwork at home, causing a delay in the morning's business. Subsequent minor mishaps at work added to his stress, and he was stuck in traffic near the restaurant. Sitting in his car, Griffin sent text messages to coworkers in frustration, explaining the possible delay due to traffic. However, his attention was soon diverted by two silhouettes that caught his eye. Looking out the window, he saw his wife engaged in an animated conversation with another man. An unfamiliar wave of jealousy swept over Griffin as he noticed how engrossed she seemed in the company of this other man. "She certainly has interesting taste in friends," he muttered to himself. Deciding to follow their trail, Griffin waited patiently as the transport slowly crept forward. Eventually, the road cleared and he was able to steer the car toward the restaurant the couple had entered. Cautiously, he entered the restaurant, discreetly scanning the room to find the wife without drawing attention to himself. The conference table where Griffin was supposed to be seated was a decent distance away from Alina and her companion. While his colleague was chatting with his partners, Griffin kept his gaze on his wife, keeping his eyes on her. Gradually, he began to recognize the face of the man she was with, though it took him some effort to remember his exact identity. Griffin and Alina had known each other since high school. Griffin had feelings for the prettiest girl in their school, but she always preferred to date the more popular and mature senior Eric. One day, Griffin mustered up the courage to ask her out, but was turned down. Despite this, he continued to admire her from afar, while Alina stayed with Eric until graduation. After high school, Griffin continued his higher education, while also working part-time. After graduation, he quickly moved up the career ladder by getting a job with an international company. Thanks to hard work, he received a good income, bought a spacious apartment, a nice car, and supported his parents. In addition, Griffin loved to travel, finding great energy in it. Years later, Griffin came to a meeting with former classmates, where he unexpectedly ran into Alina. Upon seeing him, Alina was stunned by his transformation. Despite his modest clothes, she could see that he had made significant progress. They got to talking, and Alina took a keen interest in Griffin's current endeavors. As their conversation progressed, Alina's flirtation became more and more obvious. They exchanged phone numbers, and the next day Alina offered to renew their acquaintance. After all these years, she had finally arranged a date with Griffin on her own. Even though she had rejected him in the past and dated someone else, Griffin's warm feelings for Alina remained intact. Now as adults, they were delighted to have finally shown mutual interest in each other. Their relationship developed rapidly because Alina knew exactly what she wanted in life and was not interested in a slow romance. Despite warnings from Griffin's parents that they should spend more time getting to know each other, they decided to get married after only 6 months. They went on various trips together, where Griffin introduced Alina to different countries and their unique culture. She was full of joy and wonder, perceiving everything with great enthusiasm. However, after returning to her hometown, she gradually began to take time off work, citing poor health. In addition, she often complained to Griffin that she felt exhausted and unappreciated at her job, and expressed the opinion that it was a waste of time. These were not careful hints, but rather manipulation tactics that Griffin unfortunately bought into. Even though his first love had become his wife, and he still loved her deeply, Griffin did his best to support her. In response to their conversations, he even suggested that she take a break from work and relax at home, hoping it would help her relieve her stress and fatigue. He was horrified when he recognized Eric, Alina's companion, the same man she had met at school. With each passing minute, his faith in the goodness of the situation was rapidly fading. Alina flirted shamelessly with Eric, and at one point he even began to caress her thigh. Griffin desperately wanted to vent his anger at the two of them, but he felt trapped by the circumstances. The meeting they were attending was extremely important, and he couldn't afford to tarnish his reputation. He finally came to the conclusion that if they were acting like this, their relationship had been going on for quite some time. Before he could feel insulted by this betrayal, he realized he had to put it aside for the time being. Dealing with the unfaithful spouse could be dealt with later, but right now he had more pressing matters to attend to. He concentrated on the negotiations, conducting them with the utmost professionalism. Alina and her lover left the room before he did, clearly in a hurry. But Griffin returned home and did not find his wife. Furious, he hastily gathered up all of Alina's belongings, stuffed them into bags, and threw them in the nearest trash can. When the traitor returned home, her surprise was unparalleled. The door was locked from the inside with a deadbolt. That's when her husband opened it and told her that she no longer lived here, and if she was smart enough, she could fight for her clothes with the local bums at the dump. At first, Alina thought her husband was joking, but when the door slammed in her face, she realized he had found out. The couple divorced, and Griffin was relieved. He was grateful to his mother for insisting on a prenup before the wedding, as it had been very helpful. Alina never apologized to Griffin for betraying him or repented for her actions. It was obvious that she had acted solely in her own self-interest without thinking of the consequences. After high school, Alina was constantly in a fight with Eric because he could not provide her with everything she desired. However, after learning that Eric's financial situation had improved, she quickly re-established a relationship with him. Alina admitted that she had always loved Eric, but his past problems had prevented her from staying with him sooner. Instead, she had chosen to be with Griffin because she believed that he could provide her with the life she wanted. Now she was living with Eric again. Griffin realized that Alina was constantly on the lookout for a better situation, constantly changing partners, never staying with them for long. Instead of building a future with her husband and supporting him through the ups and downs, she chose a parasitic lifestyle. However, life is unpredictable, and everyone faces setbacks. Griffin is hardly lucky to have such a woman by his side, as she is likely to leave him at the first sign of failure.